Welcome back to the ReEducation Camp podcast. Karen O'Toole, joined by Colin Miller. Another fun-filled episode. I'm glad that we're on a streak again. This is our second episode that we actually got back into the groove here. But Colin, I wanted to talk to you today. I wanted to start off like we know that this is going to go in a lot of different directions. I'm thinking we might get into a little debate about uh the whole Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan, that Harris guy, like all of that later. But first I want to
Sam
talk about
Harris.
Sam Harris. Yeah, I thought we'll talk about that later. But I wanted to talk about there was a really interesting article in the New York Times. It was an op-ed written by a Stephen Carutz. I have no idea if I said that correctly. I've got a little info here. It was about the Gen X career meltdown. So the Gen Xers are not free from the hellscape that the white hairs have created for all of us. So we thought that millennials and Gen Zers were the ones that were really facing the fallout. But now it is also the Gen Xers. And really, it's just talking about like people that went into media in the Gen X generation. Like the Gen X generation was really, I think, motivated to go into creative endeavors and kind of be a little bit more, they kind of rejected, I believe, in some ways. I guess in the 80s it was very like image focused, and I think about like the early 90s and that like grunge era, and I
Yeah.
feel like the Gen X was the beginning of that, like I don't want to say like activist, but kind of like cool job, like you go to college and you work for a magazine or you run a record store
Yeah,
or
you work for like
you go
Spin
into
Magazine or something
yeah,
like
well, it's
that.
actually funny that you said Spin Magazine because he specifically mentioned Spin Magazine in the article.
No way.
He
That's the
spoke
first
with,
magazine
yeah,
I thought of.
yeah, he spoke with a guy. This guy that was mentioned is actually a TV director, but part of the article he talked to this guy who wrote for, and that's exactly what it's talking about. Is this guy worked for Spin Magazine, say he was an editor. And for years of his life, his like identity was wrapped up in being like the rock guy that worked for Spin Magazine and got to go to these shows and got to go travel. And now that's all kind of dried up. Like that's not really, and he had to go into a completely different field. And he talked to different people that had gone into therapy or gone into like become like a birthing doula and had left like the creative fields because they're just it's kind of like the new factories like once upon a time. And
Yeah.
actually Stephen Carutz, who wrote this article, he's from Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which is Rust Belt, kind of old school town. It's the home of Shop Vac. If you've ever used a Shop Vac vacuum machine, that is from
I was
Williamsport.
unaware of that.
You just learned something new. Always hanging out. but, but yeah, so he was kind of talking about how similar to the factory jobs drying up, we're now seeing that in the media. And I think reading this article, it made me almost appreciative that I'm a millennial for the first time ever in the career space because I do think both of us kind of started off like we met in a creative media job field. For anybody who's listening doesn't know us, we worked at a small radio station, and that's how Colin and I met many years ago at a
That was
very
the best
small.
job ever, really. Like looking
That
back in
was the best.
retrospect, I mean, was there any better job? Not really.
Not really. No, no, you're right. It's taken me a long time to kind of come to terms with that, but I completely agree. But I think radio DJ is like such a great example of that, where like once upon a time, like you could be a radio DJ and provide for a family. Like it was always kind of a crazy job where you had to, in a lot of places, uh, beginning in probably in the 70s, 80s, 90s, I would say it became a job where you had to move around a lot to really make some money. But nonetheless, like you could make a pretty good living in a decent market and
Yeah.
do well for yourself. And that's completely now all of radio is pretty much voice tracked. And it's like you have somebody voice tracking a 2 minute clip for like 17 stations. And if anybody's ever listened, it's pretty much like if you even listen to radio anymore, you'll have a person come on and they're like, coming up, we'll tell you about you'll never believe what lion is the favorite of people surveyed. We'll tell you more in 10 minutes. And then like, they don't even like announce the music. They don't, nobody's selecting the
It's all very
music.
impersonal. It's
It's very
all just
impersonal.
very
It's
automated and
destroyed radio.
sterile, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
sad. I still
It's
listen to
com
a lot of terrestrial radio too. I do like have my
yeah.
receiver in my living room with my speakers, and it's there is still something very romantic about it, I
Mm-hmm.
think. Just like even just like hearing the static,
Yeah.
when a station isn't coming in all that well. So yeah, I'll still tune in, but you're right. It's just very, there's no, like, are there any personalities even that you can really grow attached to nowadays?
Yeah, there are like some small stations, station I'm affiliated with still that probably wouldn't want to be affiliated with anything I'm doing right now. But but there's some small independent stations, there's some small college stations still, and there's like I said, nonprofit stations. So I think that's the lion's share of it. A lot of morning shows still exist, but it seems like the people that stick around are like the least talented individuals. Like it's just the people that are willing to sit there, say what they want you to say, talk about the dumb things they want you to talk about. Like, do you get what
Hmm.
I'm saying? It's like not really the most talented people. Like the most talented people have already left. And you just have like these people that are willing to do whatever they ask them to do. And you don't really have that unique. I mean, like you said, we had a unique experience where we got to actually select the music, talk
Oh, we
about
were
the
given so much
music.
freedom, like a
We were
ridiculous amount
given
of freedom, honestly. We didn't even
yeah.
realize that at the time
We
either.
had no
Like we were
idea.
probably
No.
bitching during
Yeah.
that
We were
period. A lot of
probably,
bitching,
yeah.
moaning, groaning. But like I wish I could do that now. I really do. Like just like a small town radio station. I mean, we hardly got paid anything, but that wasn't the point. It was
Yeah.
like it was a cool job to have, and I've never had a job as cool. I mean, some might say like, "Oh, well, I used to work in medical cannabis. I worked in a dispensary. I worked in that industry for 4 years." And for a while there was sort of an Empire Records vibe going on there, where it was like a bunch of like this cool young group just sort of like
Yeah.
hanging out, chilling every day. That didn't last for very long though. It never does. And it doesn't last because
Yeah.
I get involved with women at the workplace who are like in relationships and have children, and then I snub the boyfriend like in public, and then things get weird. That was kind of when things took a turn for the worse at the dispensary job. But that's a whole other
I didn't
tale,
expect it to take the turn that it's
Well, you're talking to me. There's
yeah.
always like a
It's always
woman that like I'm trying to get involved with, but they're not available. There's always a story like that, and that's basically what happened there. She doesn't talk to me anymore, but she's also covered in tattoos as well.
So it's
Like
a
she
win.
got like her entire body's like covered. Like she
Oh,
turned into a
okay.
lizard basically. Like
Oh,
she went
wow.
from like a hot looking I shouldn't be saying this, but
That's okay. That's
she's never
okay.
gonna hear this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I do think, like I said, I'm kind of appreciative that I'm a millennial because I think early on, so just for a little background, like I worked in public radio in Alabama and in Philadelphia. Then I worked for a small market station, and then I worked in radio and then podcasting on more of like a national level. So I've kind of been in the public radio world, I've been in podcasting digital world, I've been in terrestrial radio world, small and big. So I've seen a lot of it over the years. And I think I'm kind of appreciative. Like I'm 34 years old, I'll be 35 this year. I'm appreciative that I'm a millennial, like reading this article about the Gen Xers because I worked with Gen Xers and I was able to kind of see the path I would be on and recognize like, oh, I need to make sure that like my financial house is in order so that I'm not pushed aside or treated like garbage, or I have some kind of options here if I'm 45 years old. Like Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I recognize that some of the people I worked with, and they were like a lot of Gen Xers, even people that are only like elder millennials, like maybe like 5 or 6 years older than me, like they were so caught up in the old paradigm. And I think I was fortunate enough to be young enough to see, like, oh, everything's changing. Like, nobody's just going to hand you a job. Like, that's not how this works anymore. Like, you got to put yourself out there. You got to take some risks and knock on doors essentially. And even what we're doing here, like, I know it's not like crazy successful, but it's like we're doing it, we're working towards it. And you kind of gotta, it's like you gotta make your own magic in a sense. And I remember you telling me, like, when after you interned for Howard Stern and you like lived in New York City, I remember you saying, like, and this is such a millennial statement, that you thought, oh, well, I can just get a job now. Like, I'll just
Oh
be able to
yeah.
get a
I was like,
job
well,
in
I'm
New
gonna
York
stay
City.
here.
Yeah.
Like I was fine with living in like the little hotel room and like washing my hands in the bathtub because the sink, like the spigot didn't come out far enough for me to be like I was fine with that. I love New York City. I love not having a car. I love taking the train everywhere. There was always something going on. There was always like a celebrity somewhere that you can go and like meet and greet. And I just figured like, well, yeah, this is I'm gonna stay here. But it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, what are you gonna do? Like, where are you gonna find like work that's going to provide you with the finances to like live on your own in New York? Like, and also I wanted to live, like, I consider, like, if you say that you live in New York City, to me that's living in Manhattan. That's living in the heart of
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like living in Brooklyn and commuting in, oh god, no, you don't live in New York City, you live in Brooklyn. Like New York City is Manhattan, but that's just my little
Yeah,
little
I get that. I get
take on
that.
that.
You're
But
like Trump. You're like
yeah,
Trump. You're
exactly,
like
exactly. I'm a Manhattan liberal, Karen. Me and
yeah.
Trump, we're Manhattan liberals. You know, we are used to the finer things in life. We're not going to be like commuting in from Astoria. You know, like this, what do you think
But
this is?
but I think that that's so true about millennials, is that we were kind of raised with this idea, like, okay, you go to college, you get the piece of paper, and then you get magic job. Like, the job just, the doors just open for
That's what
you.
we were
Like, of
told.
course you, that was absolutely what we were told. I think one of the things that I was very grateful for is when I was a freshman, I worked for the local, I mean, not the local, but like, it was the public radio station on campus in Alabama. Not the, it wasn't the student station. It was the actual station for that was associated with the college. So we
Hmm.
actually worked with not just, it wasn't like a bunch of college kids, it was a bunch of college kids and professionals that had, or some of them were like 40, 50 years old. And then we also, I was the only freshman there because I was a weirdo. So I like showed up, like literally knocked on the door and was like, I want to do this. I want to be an intern. And they were like, okay. And so most of the people I worked with out of the college students were seniors. And I can't even believe this. It almost makes me physically ill when I say that when I first went to college, my major was broadcast journalism. That is highway robbery for that to be a 4-year degree. What in God's name? So what happened was there were seniors working at the radio station, and one of the seniors was actually in the business school. She wasn't she was a little weird, but she wasn't a broadcast journalism major, and she was interning as well. And I thought to myself, like, wait a minute, I don't have to this is stupid. This is not a real degree. Like, why would I do this as a degree? And I saw them like doing television stuff. They would like make television reels, and I thought to myself, like,
Yeah.
this is gross. Like, I don't want anything to do with television. I want to be heard, not seen. I want to be like an NPR reporter. I want to be on the BBC. Like, I don't care about
I
television.
want to be on Infowars.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just like, yeah, I don't have any interest in this. So I changed my major and kind of got out of the broadcast journalism, which I'm so glad. But like, to me, it's like it blows my mind that people are still getting degrees in broadcast journalism. So like we are starting young people off with $100,000 student loans to go work for like WNEP, which is like a local station where they're probably making like $30,000 out of school. Like this is just like
Yeah.
for them to just sit there and report, and they're not even learning anything about like journalistic integrity. Like the like
Journalism's dead.
journalism, yeah, journalism should not be a degree. Like this is
Who
absolutely
who's
ridiculous.
like a real journalist? Like Whitney Webb,
Yeah,
maybe, and like
Whitney
she lives in
Webb,
like
yeah.
Chile because she can't
Yeah,
live here because she's gonna get murdered by the
yeah,
CIA. Like that's
that's
no,
pretty
that's
much
real
it.
journalism.
My mom loves Whitney Webb. She like first, I don't remember when she was, I was first exposed to her through Tim Dillon. And then like months later, my mom listened to an interview with her. And my mom goes, if I didn't have children, she's like, I would probably be Whitney Webb. So that's like tells you a
And
little
she
bit about
has
how I was
children too.
raised. Wow, she has children.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow, that's unbelievable. God bless her. But
I know. She's a
one
ballsy
day
one.
we might have her on the show. That would be pretty
That'd be
awesome.
awesome.
But
She
yeah.
has journalistic integrity.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
who else did like does Tucker have
David
journalistic
Smith.
integrity?
David Smith.
Yeah, Dave Smith. I like Dave Smith.
Comedian slash journalist. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right that it's I mean, so much of it is grifting, but I just think it's like I said, the media landscape is becoming a very obvious thing. Like you have photographers, et cetera, et cetera. Like you said, journalism. And like I said, I just think that we grew up in a world where you thought I just go to school, I do what they tell me to do, and then I get my little piece of paper. And then obviously everybody just wants to pay me money and I get to do whatever passion project
Right.
I want to do.
Because you've
Uh
got the golden ticket, like
yes,
Charlie.
yeah. Yeah, and I have to say like my brother and I were really raised on a lot of National Geographic because I do have kind of a good take on this though. I have a little bit, like I said, I'm fortunate I'm a millennial because I think we were able to kind of wake up and recognize like, wait a minute, this is not the old institutions are crumbling and the old networks, like the way things were are not going to exist in 5 to 10 years.
It's like
If
Klaus
you
Schwab said, the good old days, we're not going back.
we
They're
are
over.
not Klaus, we are not.
No, he was
But
right.
my brother and I were raised on National Geographic, and my brother is an amazing photographer. I know that, like, if I'm going to give him a little shout out, you can follow him on Instagram. You don't have to take my word for it. Living the Life Photography. Colin gets to see his stuff that I share all the
I
time.
always heart them if you notice.
You
Always.
do always heart them, and they're fantastic. Like he is so talented. And when we were kids, like that was my brother's aspiration. Like he was like, I want to go work like with Marty Stauffer's crew, go film. Like, I mean, he would literally sit out in the Antarctic if he could, or in the Arctic free the tundra and wait hours to get pictures of like polar bears. Like that's what he would do. Like he would be in his glory. He would love it. And when we were younger, like that was something that existed. There were staff photographers with National Geographic. There were people that worked for the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, videographers, and that is all going away too. But the good part about it is that there is kind of the one good thing about it is there was no guarantee you were getting those jobs though. So now, not that it's great what we have today, but like I said, my brother's Instagram, like he's able to just be in charge of his own work. He has nobody telling him. Now, is he making a lot of money doing it? No. Is there the ability to maybe make money doing it one day? Sure, to get paid for what he loves to do, but he actually gets to be in charge and in control of the content. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. He doesn't have to
And
answer to a
there's no
producer
gatekeeping.
or
Yeah. Because there was no guarantee. I'm sure a lot of those jobs, we probably romanticized them, but they were probably I'm sure just like anything, you probably had to know somebody. You probably had to kiss up to certain people. There were morons deciding who gets to do what and who gets to do this and what gets run. So I think in some ways, like you said about like Whitney Webb, like she gets to call the shots. She gets to decide what she's investigating, what she's going to say. She doesn't have an editor breathing down her neck and saying, no, you can't cover it like that. You can't talk about Epstein like that. You can't do this. You can't. We're going to make this advertiser happy. We have to do this. And obviously, there still is a little bit of that advertiser influence that goes on today. But like I said, like we're kind of unleashed from a lot of that. And we saw that in the 2024 election where like the networks were running 24/7 their Pfizer commercials and people were listening to Joe Rogan to listen to Trump's conversation and buy some Takova's boots. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like
Yeah.
in some ways it's kind of good that we've been unleashed, but it also we're like we're in like uncharted territory now. But my big, I think my overarching point is that I'm glad that I'm not a little bit older though, because I feel like some of those people that are a little bit older than us, like I feel like they're just so stuck in what was, or they're
That
like,
is true.
yeah, or it's like too late for them to kind of like change course. Not that it's never too late, but you get what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
like
if you're
some of the
still
people,
breathing, it's not too late.
it's
But
not too
also,
late.
it's like I
Yeah.
feel some of the old. It's like especially folks who are like 10 years older than us. They're so, like you said, they're so set in their ways, and they're so used to how things used to be that they're just sort of just going through the motions. You know what I mean? They're just
Yeah. I just mean, imagine you worked for a big network and you held off getting a garbage pay for like you made the sacrifice of having your creative job, which I'm sure by and large is just putting up with like unruly talent and just nonsense. And then they're just constantly cutting. I kind of know a little bit from the radio industry that people put in, they could have just cut ties years ago and instead, okay, I'll continue to do this job where I'm not making a lot of money. And then they're 45 years old and they're like, well, we're going to lay you off. And you never got any other skills. You never, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm kind of glad to be a little bit younger because I feel like I have the ability to I was able to kind of see where things were going and prepare.
if I'm being honest with you, the only job I ever wanted was to be wealthy. like was there ever like this career or like passion? I mean, I suppose I was passionate about practicing the guitar as a youth, but it's like I never really wanted to leave the bedroom and like interact with people. Not really. And not much has changed. Like I'm just like perfectly content. Like I'm finally getting a lanai installed. I've been in Florida for 4 years now, and finally I'm getting this lanai installed. And I'm gonna be so content to literally just sit on the lanai and stare into nothingness and have the cat there. Like to just like go out there with some coffee, maybe take the guitar with me and just like noodle. I'm perfectly content with that, and to also just be alone while I'm doing it. That's another realization that I had, especially after this last dating experience. It's like I was sitting alone eating dinner, as I always do. I sit alone and eat dinner, and the cat hops up on the chair and sits at the table with me. Like I'm there, at the dinner table having my meal, and she's on the chair across from me, just like sitting and looking and purring. And I'm thinking to myself, like, would I rather the cat be there at the dinner table with me, or would I rather some chick like that I'm forced to like make conversation with and like talk about, like I've got to hear like about your day and like what you want to do like on the weekend and where, like, oh my God, I don't think I ever want that, to be honest with you. And is that wrong? Like, is there something
Oh,
wrong with that? Is
I
there
knew a
something wrong with me?
guy, I knew a guy who is a little goofy and him and his wife, they also had cats and he would sometimes like live in Germany and she would sometimes like live in Texas and they were married for like over 50 years. And they just
Wow.
kind of like did their own thing. He was probably a little on the spectrum. He was like a genius, but
I'm
like a
not a
savant.
genius, that's for
Yeah.
sure. But
But yeah, I think that I don't think it's that absurd. Like I recall a lady I worked with in public radio who's kind of well known. Like she didn't live with her husband. They lived in separate houses. And it wasn't, to me, I didn't get the idea. I've gotten the idea from other people that they cannot be in the same presence as each other. But I kind of got the vibe from her that it was probably just more like, yeah, we're married. We like to spend time together, but we like our space. And
yeah.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think for the right individuals, it's like it works for them. Maybe you get dinner together, you go hang out with each other, and then you have your own houses. I think my husband would
It's
be okay with that one day.
it's
Like he
like
would be
who
like,
am
"You
I
have
gonna
your house."
possibly I think that's a fine setup. Who am I gonna meet that I'm gonna just want to be in their presence like all the time and like living with them, and you wake up and she's there and it's just like it all sounds so overwhelming. It's like why can't I have somebody there for the times that I want them there? And I suppose we're in the escort territory. Like everything
Yes, you
goes
are.
back to
You
an
are.
escort. Everything, all roads with me, like lead back to either like a mail order bride, an escort, because I don't think I'm capable of having like a real healthy, like adult, normal relationship. I just don't think it's in the cards for me. But I guess where I was getting at with bringing that up is there's a lot of us who don't really want to do anything. What about the
Well,
millennials who don't want to do anything?
it's
Like
funny you say that because this study just came out that there are 7 million men that have exited the labor force and they're just not working. Like
to hell with them.
they have no plans on coming back. A lot of them are quote unquote on disability or have
Uh-huh.
some kind of like addiction.
Yeah.
But yeah, 7 million men, young men, not just men, like young men, working age men that are no longer in the workforce. So yeah, I definitely think that
That's
and
why
they
we
were
needed to bring the factories back. Like these
that's why
tariffs,
we
I was so excited about these tariffs because, like, now not that I was excited to be going, I wouldn't be going to the factory, but I feel like people needed to get back to the factory and like be on like the company softball team and like go to the picnic. Like, there is something like sort of romantic about it, in a sense. Like you all work at the
yeah,
factory
absolutely.
together and you make
Yeah.
the stuff in the factory and like your families know it. Like there is something romantic about that, I think.
Well, and it kind of relates to that article we were talking about because like I said, he was from Williamsport and he had seen the collapse of the manufacturing industry in Williamsport in Pennsylvania in the Rust Belt and now it's kind of happening in the creative fields and the media fields. And I think it's interesting because he was talking about like what needs to be done. And I don't know necessarily, I don't want to speak for him, but there was kind of this conversation. I watched an interview on PBS about it when they interviewed the author and they were talking about like what needs to be done. Da, da, da. And in his defense, he's recognized that the blue collar workers suffered from globalization and automation really from like the 70s on. And like I said, these communities suffered too. I mean, we are from the coal region in Pennsylvania. Like we know full well what those communities, how hollowed out they were, the
We've seen
destitute
people die
poverty.
that we
Yeah.
knew, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like deaths of despair. Um, and and so in his defense, he did speak to that, but I think it's interesting because now you have these like elite class in New York City and in the as you would say probably on the coast who are like what shall we do now that we don't have jobs? But when it was the blue collar workers, it was just, oh, well, it's automation, it's globalization, it's progress. So get with the times. But the jobs that are most likely going to be replaced by AI, like one of the top jobs is going to be lawyers. Like, and there's already an overabundance of lawyers. Like we're getting in the United States, the amount of law degrees that are getting churned out versus the actual need for lawyers is so dramatic. It is very, very one sided. And these people are just getting these law degrees thinking kind of back to what our conversation was. Oh, I just get the bachelor's degree
Then I'll
and
be
I
a
get my
hotshot
ticket.
lawyer and I'll be making the
Exactly.
big bucks.
And that's
But it's
not
gonna
the
be like
case at
it's gonna be
all.
like an AI in your corner pretty soon that's like
Yeah.
defending you. That's what it's gonna be.
Yeah, and absolutely. And it's already, we already have too many people getting law degrees than the actual market needs because I think there's a lot of people that just think, okay, being a lawyer is prestigious and also it's a ticket to being upper middle class. And that's not necessarily the case anymore. Actually, my mother-in-law was telling me she works for a grocery store chain and some of the people she works, she knows a couple people that she works with that have law degrees. Yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah, I
and
believe
and
it.
but,
Yeah.
but think about how much debt they probably have too. It's not just about having the law degree. You probably have at least like $150,000. I'd say $100,000 on the conservative estimate. And it's just, it's unbelievable. But like you were saying about the factories, I think that it kind of drives me crazy. Like I appreciate Trump's sincerity when he was just with like the coal miners and he was saying like these guys want to mine coal. It's what they want to do. And
Yeah.
Colin and I, if you've never listened before, we are from the coal region of Pennsylvania. So like we are, I got married at a coal company. What is it? Like a town that was built by a coal
Yeah,
company.
yeah, it
Like
was a
that's,
company town.
it was a company town.
I
It
used to
runs
enjoy
deep
going
through
on the
my
haunted
veins.
lantern tours with
Oh
my
my
two
God. Yes.
cousins.
That's how I started going there. It was so good. Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh. But they don't do it anymore. It's so sad. It's like literally heartbreaking to me. But
Yeah.
but so the coal miners, he was talking about how like they want to mine coal and yes, Biden did put some restrictions on it, but the truth of the matter is if you go to Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, there is the main part of town. In the year like 1900, it was the most populated square mile in the United States at that time. I think maybe in the world. It was so densely populated. It was booming. And not that it was ever like a luxurious town by any means of the imagination, but there was my, there were jobs there. There was life there. There was something happening there. And there's still coal mines operating not very far from there. They don't need thousands of workers anymore. It only takes about 20 people to mine probably double, if not triple, the amount of coal that they were producing when they had thousands of workers. If you're getting my drift, those are not specific numbers, but I'm saying in a greater conversation is that the automation has replaced a lot of those jobs. So I appreciate when like Donald Trump's out there. I think he's very sincere, but I also think he kind of misunderstands how the markets actually work and how anything actually works. Like
Yeah.
I just
And
don't
this
think
goes
he
back to a
actually
conversation.
understands. Yeah.
We had that conversation last week where we talked about people, especially the boomers. They project things onto Donald Trump. It's like they
Yeah.
feel like they know him in a sense because like we all grew up seeing him on TV. So they think that he like even with these with the tariff rug pull that happened. I think that the logical thing now listen, I don't know anything about anything, but I've been reading that the 90-day pause on the tariffs were due to him getting spooked over the bond market in other countries. Like he thought that other countries are going to be dumping US bonds. I don't even know if
Yeah.
I'm speaking
Hmm.
correctly. But when I talk to, my parents, their attitude is like, oh, this was always the plan, this is art of the deal. He was always going to put the 90, and it's like I just
Are
think
we
that that's
sure?
that's fantastical thinking. Like again, you're projecting this image you have, this idea you have of who Donald Trump is, which is like sort of like a just like a manufactured concocted idea that he's this master deal maker. I just think he got spooked and put the 90-day pause because I probably bankers were telling him, that this wasn't the way to go, likely, right? Like am I crazy for
No,
thinking
no,
that?
No, you're absolutely right. I think it's actually goes against real conservative economics. And I'm not going to get into all that because that's not my expertise here on the show. Our show is a lighthearted comedic show. We're a comedy show.
Yes,
But
we are a comedy
yeah,
show.
like you said, I think that for by and large, I mean, honestly, if we're going to talk about Trump actually brought us one of the worst things that ever happened in this country economically for the middle class. And that was all the PPP money and all of the money that got printed during the COVID pandemic. Okay.
Everybody always forgets that he was in charge when
He
when you
essentially
shut
like created socialism in this country
he
and
shut
like
down the country. He let like looters and rioters burn down cities. And you tell people that and it's like, oh well, he had no choice. You don't
yeah.
understand China
And
and this and that. And it's like, what was he not the commander in chief during that period or no?
yeah, when you actually find out like how much money was printed just from that time period and how much the money that is in the markets now circulating just from that, from 2020 on, that is why your house is so expensive. That is why your groceries are so expensive. That is why everything is so
Yes.
expensive, is because they pumped so much money and all of that money went to the top. They essentially gave it to corporations and banks, and yeah, that you might have got $1,400 here and there, but all the money actually went to the businesses, and then the businesses just made themselves richer. Like they
Yeah.
even gave it to companies like Airbnb, and then like didn't need the money, and they just like these companies just took the money and ran with it and enriched themselves. And then the people at the bottom, yeah, they did get some of those people got the unemployment paychecks. Guess what they did? They went and spent it on corporation. Like they
Yeah, and
paid
shit.
Jeff Bezos. Yeah,
They
exactly. So it's
ordered
like,
shit off
thanks.
Amazon
They
and like
gave you
bought,
money and you gave it back to the 1%. Like, you understand what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. I just heard a
because old
statistic.
people were catching a cold because there was a cold going around
Yeah.
that the elderly were catching. So we got to shut
So
everybody. You can't go to work anymore. These old people, they're catching the cold. We're going to print all this money. And also the rioters and the looters, well, we can't really do it. We have to let them burn the
we
cities.
got
What
to
are we
let
going to
them
do?
do it. We can't really. And I'm not saying like, I think that Trump, what I mean to say is, I think that Trump is sincere. I think he means well. I think he cares about the American people. When I voted for him for
I
the
don't even know
third
anymore.
time,
Like, really, I don't, does he? I
I
guess.
do. I genuinely believe that like I voted for him for a third time because I want to see, I believe he actually wants people to prosper, but I think that he just doesn't completely understand how all of this works, and I think that he has some morons like in his inner circle, or I don't know. But I think he means well. I appreciate that he means well. I just don't think he actually sometimes comprehends, or the people running things comprehend what actually needs to be done. But
Let me
I
tell
don't
you what
know.
actually
Who
needs to be done.
cares?
I'll tell you what needs to be done. And by the way, this is a comedy podcast. I'll say that again. But I'm like almost of the opinion now that the only way to change things for the better is like a military dictatorship where like the dictator says like, listen, here's what's going to happen. We're getting rid of the central banks. We're
Yeah, we're getting
creating
rid
a
of the
gold.
central bank.
Yeah, where
Yes.
there's no more Federal Reserve.
You you will only use gold.
Yeah, there's only gold and silver. We're having a gold and silver back currency, and it's like, how else? You're not gonna get that done by putting somebody in office and having a Congress and a Senate and judges. You need a dictator to come in and dismiss the Congress, dismiss the Senate, send the judges home. It's like, here's what we're doing.
Dismiss.
Just dismiss everybody, and by dismiss, listen, if things have to get physical, so be it. Again, joking, but like how else are we gonna get like I was talking about last week, like China. I was telling you, we were talking about how China has like this high-speed rail system that connects the whole country. Well, why can't we have that? I don't want to drive anywhere. I should be able to hop on a high-speed rail to Disney World right now. I should not have to deal with the turnpike and I-4 and all that BS. I just want to get on a high-speed rail. Why can't we have that? Do you have an answer for that?
Private property rights. That's
Okay, we need to
exactly
get rid of
why.
private property then. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but we really a military dictatorship is the way to go if we want to
So
have anything
Colin doesn't
nice.
have to drive. So Colin doesn't have to.
Yeah, I know exactly. Listen, a lot of people don't. A lot of
Well, I'll
people would
tell.
prefer
Yeah.
to take public transportation, but safe and clean public transportation, like Tucker showed us in Russia, right?
Did you see that there was a guy who had sex with a corpse in New York City on the subway? Like just yeah, just this past week. I saw in the New York Post today.
Doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me.
They're looking for this guy who had sex with a corpse. Yeah. Crazy.
Did you see that
Absolutely
guy?
insane.
Did you see that this was like months ago that illegal immigrant burned this woman alive on a New
On
York
the subway.
subway and like
Yeah.
everybody's just like
Yeah.
walking by like it's another day. It's
Yeah, they're
like
like, all right, well.
it's like okay, there's an example of why we need a military dictatorship. So
Yeah, that
that's
was probably, yeah. I remember that. That was probably like in a Trump campaign ad too. It's like, and
yeah,
there's like Kamala
probably.
laughing, just like that video, and then Kamala
Yeah,
laughing.
this poor woman's getting burned alive. Kamal is cackling in the background, like with
Yeah.
wine-stained teeth. Like, yeah, that was probably you're right.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting too, like these people that just in general, like you said, so when you were talking about the tariffs and like the stock market, I heard a statistic today that the bottom 50% of people, and I don't know if this is the United States, so I apologize. I don't know if this stat is for global or for the United States, but the bottom 50% don't even own any stocks. And I do believe it was for the United States, but I could be wrong. So the bottom 50% own zero stocks. And then it's about 12, I can't remember the next percentage group owns about 12% of the stock market. And then it's like the 10% at the top own like 88% of the stock
That's what I mean. The stock
market.
market's fake. The stock market's like
It's like,
for like the ultra rich. It's not even for like the common
yeah,
working
and
man.
that's not necessarily true because I do have stocks. I have brothers and sisters with stocks and everything, I, but like you said, I think that does, but hearing that statistic, it is kind of true that there's like a lot of Americans who don't own any stock and don't care, and it has no reflection on their existence. And but really what I want to say too is that there's so many people out there. I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast, but I've said this in my own private conversations that anybody that gets up every day, whether they are on the right or the left, and their day and their mood is dictated by what the orange man is doing in Washington,
Oh
they
my
need to be
God.
deported immediately.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have no
And
place living among
yes, they
us.
have no, yes, like if you're that and I understand, like if you have a company, you care about the tariff. So I think that there are exceptions to this rule. Like if you have a company and you like import cocoa from Ghana or something, and you're like, okay, what is Trump doing today? Like I kind of need to know what's going on. I can understand you're worried about the tariffs in that situation. I mean the people that literally have like they're like on disability or they're like
Yeah, I know
retired.
some of these people. I know
And they're
these
like,
people.
"Did you see what Trump did today? Did you see what he did?" And I mean on both sides of the aisle. Like there's other people. Somebody just sent me a video. Oh man, I should pull it up. This lady singing a song about Tesla and Jesus Christ. And I was like, "What in God's name is this?" And so that's what I mean. This is not about sides. This is about people that are mentally ill, okay? And they spend every single day and every fiber of their being revolves around the orange man and good or bad. Like either it's like, did
Oh,
you see that the orange man he did this that he just put this person in charge of that? Did you see did you see how it was so great? That was so funny that the orange man, I mean, yeah, he's funny, but like you understand, like the orange man did this, the orange man did that. Everything the orange man does is five-dimensional chess. He is the
oh yeah.
greatest. He's our king. Did you see
This
Barron?
was his
He
plan
should be
all
the
along.
president. Yeah, he should
Yeah.
have a third term. You need to be deported. You
You
are
know what
on
though?
the planes to Guantanamo.
Here's what I'll say though, and I was thinking about this last night as I was doing dishes. I told you I get a A lot of my best lucid thoughts come when the water's running at the kitchen sink. I was thinking the difference between these two extremes, the right and the left. The difference is that the people, the Trump haters on the left, I don't feel physically safe around them. A lot of them, I feel like there's a chance that they could shank me or something. Like, I think most of the lefties should be like in like state hospitals, removed from society. Whereas the people on the right who sort of like, worship Trump or project, whatever onto him, I am more so like not pity them, but it's like, oh, you have no idea how the world really works.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm in physical danger from them the way I do the
Well,
crazed
because
lefties. Do you know what I mean?
you're not a trans species individual. If you were a trans species individual, you would feel threatened by their ex posts. Okay. Now you are speaking from a place of privilege as a white male.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
you do not understand the violence that their words have against them because they want to identify as a fox. Okay. So you are, I can hear your privilege speaking, but no,
I know.
I do agree what you're saying. Well, here's the big difference. Okay. Sorry, this is going to go a little bit longer than I wanted to, but
I just told you the difference. What do you that's the difference.
but that is the difference. But I think I'm identifying why that difference persists. And I've thought about this a little bit too.
SSRIs. That's why the difference persists.
Yeah, you're right. You got a good point there. But part of it is too. So when you see the anti-Tesla protest, or you see some of these protests, and obviously we have January 6th, but even January 6th, you look at that and it was not actually very violent. It was shocking, but it was not violent. Shocking, but not violent. We have to make that kind of that just like distinguish that. But like, yes, to see it was horrifying in some ways, but the actual actors, the individual people did not become violent. It was
No, I thought
more
it was
just
hilarious, if you want me to be honest with you. I wasn't hard. I remember live streaming it like at work. I was like watching a live stream of like one of the people like breaking a window. They were just
like
live streaming this on their iPhone, and I was like, all right, guys, go. I was sort of like,
I had just like almost died from sepsis, so I was like in a totally different
oh, I
world when it
remember.
happened. Yeah, one of those times.
Yeah, it
But
was very annoying.
then you see on the left where the Tesla protests have taken place and these like firebombing of Teslas, which at first I thought maybe Elon was just doing that for like an insurance claim, but now I genuinely believe these people are like that crazed that they're doing this. We see the
That's what I
BLM
mean.
riots, how violent they became. And here's the difference. The right-wing extremists, by and large, even if they a lot of them are, I don't even want to say right-wing extremists, but right-leaning people that are zealots. They are also by and large Christians. They are people that have some sense of morality. They have some
Yes.
sense of right and wrong. They have some sense of truth and lies. So I think what we see on the left is a completely agnostic and they don't have morals. They believe, I mean, rules for radicals, Saul Alinsky, like these people believe that violence is the answer. They do not have morals. They are gods in of themselves. Like they decide what is right and wrong. They have their own truth. So they get to decide in their world. So if you take a right-wing person, they are not going to commit violence. I'm not saying every one of them. I'm saying by and large, your the majority, especially these boomers, the boomer con, they might be very, they have a lot of zeal, but their zeal is mostly like showing up and like praying. Like they're not,
It's
you get what I'm
limited to
saying?
shit posting on Facebook.
Yes.
Like that's what it's
Yeah.
limited to
Yeah,
basically. Like
yeah,
sharing like
exactly.
cringe
But
like boomer con. That's really all it
But I
is.
truly believe that for the most part, they do not believe violence is the answer. Like for
Right.
many of them, it's like prayer is the answer or some other thing. And I don't think I think a lot of them have kind of lost their way as when it comes to faith. I'm not really defending how they've made Trump into a god and Elon into an angel. I'm not here to defend that whatsoever. I
The
think that that's
defense
deranged.
contractor that wants to give
Yeah.
you a brain chip and
Yeah.
is into transhumanism and wants to, repopulate the planet by himself. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
real
Real Christian.
conservative Christian
Christian, yeah.
patriot.
I'm not here to defend that, but I am here to say that you compare that to the left where no, violence is not just the answer, but at some point in time for them, it's the only resort they
It's
have.
necessary, and
It's
I hear them talk about
necessary.
it all the
Oh,
time. Like I,
it's necessary. Like we are just in violence. We are
yeah,
justified in tearing this down. We are justified in firebombing a Tesla dealership. We are stopping Hitler. We have to do this. This is like you
you're
said,
right.
violence is necessary. It's not just the answer, like you said, it's inevitable. And I think what the most dangerous thing that is happening right now, and it kind of ties back into the conversation about the tariffs and the jobs and the loss of jobs, is that a lot of people in the MAGA movement are not conservatives. They don't believe in any free
No,
markets. They don't believe in conservative ideology. They voted for Trump because they want to work. They want to have dignity. They want to be able to put a roof over their children's head, buy a house, and be able to feed their children. Like that is why they voted for Trump.
and how's
So
that going?
yeah.
How's it
But
going?
but I think what we need to be cautious of is that the the enlightenment, not necessarily the enlightenment, but like the reign of terror from the French Revolution could very well happen if you kind of align these left-wing radicals with these MAGA people who only voted and supported Trump for their financial security. Like I saw a comment the other day. Somebody was saying that we should have 90% tax rates on every dollar made over $100,000. Like first they came for the billionaires, then the millionaires, and
Then the six figure people.
now they're just coming for people that $100,000 does not go very far
No,
nowadays.
that's
So
really
I'm
not a lot
saying
of
like
money.
90% tax rate, and like what I'm saying is there are a lot of people that like I said, they're not conservative in ideology. They just want to work. They're like, okay, Trump's gonna like put us back to work. We'll vote for that. Those people will flirt and will be interested and be will have no problem, I think, getting in line with an ideology that wants to kind of overthrow our country. I mean, look what happened with Luigi Mangione. I mean, outright, they are seriously like number one, Jimmy Kimmel, so many of these late night hosts, they
Oh
were
my god.
applauding the Tesla dealerships being firebombed. I mean, this is like
Oh
actually
yeah,
in
like
yeah,
low key winking and nod, saying like,
yeah,
"No, don't
winking
do
and
this anymore." Like I saw a video clip of Jimmy
yeah,
Kimmel basically saying that.
yeah, and I think like people and like with the CEO, listen, like I don't know, the whole Luigi thing is very bizarre to me. I feel like it's a very strange situation because you're like this kid, like he just doesn't even seem like the kind of person that would be motivated to do that.
Seems contrived in a sense, almost like he was
Yeah,
like an MK Ultra patient
yeah,
that they
it's
had
very
do this
strange.
for to achieve some sort of
Yeah,
purpose. I don't know.
but it's not about the actual act itself as much it is the praise surrounding it. Like people are praising this kid.
Oh, I
They
know
want him
some of the
released.
people.
There might be riots if this kid gets the death penalty. I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah. So I'm saying
absolutely,
like
because he
and
murdered a guy in
yeah,
cold
because in cold
blood.
blood, like
Like,
and like I said, violence is necessary, like you said. Violence is necessary.
hmm
People and to them, Oh, well, those companies, they deny the claims of cancer patients. So isn't this blood for blood? Like, isn't this
Yeah.
justified? That is the language that these people, like you said, violence is necessary. It's not just the answer, it's the ultimate, it's what we have to do. And so I think that there's a lot of people that maybe are in the MAGA movement right now that don't actually have any understanding of what they're actually supporting, what they actually want. They just know that they want to work. They just know that they want to have some, be able to take their kids out for an ice cream on the weekend. Like they're not, do you get
Right.
what I'm saying? So I'm saying the idea that they could get in line with something like that. God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I have to say, I have to give credit to, there's a guy, Peter Turchin, who wrote a book that I read End Times, and he talks about how he kind of predicted that in the year 2020, he predicted it 8 years before the summer of love happened, that people would that chaos was essentially coming in the United States. And his thing was all about how the elites have just the regular working class is so immiserated that they are going to start getting activated against the elites. And he's of the belief, I just listened to an interview he did like a couple weeks ago. He believes Trump getting elected is like the beginning of the revolution. Like he's like, this is the revolution is here with Trump's election. And he's cautiously optimistic that things might go okay. But essentially his point is that people cannot live in so much they can't live lives of so much despair to for so long until they start getting unruly, essentially. Like you can't just have, and he's based it on patterns he's seen throughout history, and he believes like, oh no, like that's, if the people are immiserated for so long, they're going to get sick of it, because we kind of got used to the idea that like your children were supposed to have a better life than you. And now that's kind of reversing. And
Because everything sucks.
yeah,
Everything got progressively worse decade by decade. I mean, I
yeah,
fantasize about going back to the 90s all the time. Like, we really didn't know that that was the last decade at the time, the last decade with any feel, any culture. It's like everything just got progressively shittier and shittier, like 9/11 onward, honestly.
yeah, yeah. It really, I think it just broke our, just the American way, like that we were actually, like I was explaining to one of my siblings who is, um, well, actually, he asked me what my favorite childhood memory was, and I jokingly said 9/11, and he hung up on me. But then I explained to him, I said, no, it's not my favorite memory, but it is very memorable. And I was 11 years old when it happened. And I think to your point, it was the first time that we felt vulnerable. Like you felt as an American, you felt protected. You felt like you were not as vulnerable and you were safer. And really, it's the beginning of so much just government overreach. I
And then,
think
like,
that really
fast
was
forward
seen.
3 years, there I am as a sophomore in high school telling my buddies, like, hey, here's what really happened. The government let their own people die. And here's what it's like 3 years' time. Like, that's not really, I feel like that's the shortest period that a conspiracy theory will say gained a lot of steam. Because think about it, I was in seventh grade when that happened. And by 10th grade, I was convinced that the entire thing was not what they told us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of questions to
Like it
this
took a
day.
longer time for JFK. Like I feel like it took like decades for people to start questioning JFK, whereas 9/11 it was like a few years. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that partially has to do with just like the internet age
The
that
interwebs.
people, yeah, it kind of gets back to what we were saying at the beginning. Like now things are kind of unleashed. The Pandora's box is opened, and now it's as if they're trying to like close it back up. I think that a lot of that Sam Harris debate, which I just want to say, I thought Sam Harris wrote the 5 hour or 4 hour work week. I didn't realize he was like a philosopher. That's Tim Ferriss that wrote the
Oh,
4 Hour Work Week, but not Sam Harris.
that's a
So
bullshit book, by the way.
yeah,
The four
yeah,
hour
4 hour.
work week. Get out
He's
of
like
town.
from Money. He came from Money. Yeah, exactly. But he didn't write that. Sam Harris didn't write that book. But this week, Sam Harris kind of came out swinging against like Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan, some others that they have a responsibility to kind of, I guess, push back on some of the guests that they have and not platform people that are spreading misinformation. But I think that, like you said about 9/11, I think that's one of the reasons why. And like I said about the creatives, like the Pandora's box is open. And honestly, I think what they're going to try to do is kind of close that box back and say, no, I mean, and even Trump, I have to say, Trump has said that he has floated the idea that news networks have licenses. What the hell? What kind of socialist hellhole is that? That a news
Yeah.
network has a license? No, 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 no. We're not going to do that. So, and we already know that he's like, yeah, you need to run Trump news 24/7 about how wonderful I am. So I'm saying we don't want that. We don't want a license. But I do think too that there is definitely a problem with like way too much misinformation out there. Like we're conspiracy minded people. And I think that like even for me, it's gotten to a point where it's like conspiracy theories have jumped the shark. Like it's not even like cool
Yeah.
anymore, right? Like now
Yeah,
that
they've
yeah,
become like mainstream. Like I feel like I used to feel like I was sort of on like part of like a counterculture,
yeah,
and it's like when a band gets too big. It's like when like you're the band that you listen to now, like everybody's
yeah.
listening to
They're
them. I'm trying to think
playing
of an
it, yeah.
example.
Well, it's like they were playing
Like
in like a smoke-filled bar and now they're playing for stadiums and
It's like
it's like, you
Metallica,
know,
actually. Like they used to be a
yeah.
thrash band for the first four records, and then they
And
had a
now their
music
shirts are
video.
sold at like Walmart.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what turned a lot of those fans off. But in any case, where were we going with all this?
No,
Are
but
we
I think
wrapping up soon?
I think I well yeah, but I think that you're right. I think you made a really good point about the conspiracy theories that it's like they've become so mainstream that it's no longer it's yet again like I said before about like some of the grifters out there. Like you were talking about Whitney Webb. Like Whitney Webb is motivated to tell the truth. She's in search for truth and the reality of the story and takes great personal risks to tell the truth. Whereas the grifters are just like, well, I want to be right and I want this to be. I mean, like every time there's a terrorist attack, like they're all the people are like, they're like holding their breath to make sure that whoever committed the atrocity fits their narrative. And I think that
Hmm.
that's kind of what you're saying about the conspiracy theories. It's like they've kind of flourished because people just like want to believe that number one, I think that like it gives them some kind of superiority that they're like in the know, like, oh yeah, of
Right.
course, like didn't you hear about this, didn't you hear about that, and then it kind of has actually made like I think it takes away from the truth of some of the actual conspiracy theories. Like there are actual conspiracy theories that hold a little bit of weight, have a little bit of information behind them. Like I think I said to you, but like the guy I was talking about, he was on Tucker Carlson was talking about how, and maybe somebody else was talking about this, like the KJV Schofield Bible, and saying like, oh, it was funded by the Rothschilds, which are the Rothschilds, but some people call
Hmm.
them Rothschilds, and and it's like the way you have to make it make sense is so idiotic. Like it doesn't even like when you it's like the Rothschilds had given money to the Oxford University Press and the Schofield Bible eventually was printed by the Oxford University Press. Like they didn't pay him to write the commentary. They probably didn't even know him. He was in the United States. Like it was completely not related whatsoever. The Oxford University Press has been around since like the year 1200 AD. So like they just like to find these like little loopholes and make it into their little conspiracy. And if you do like just a little basic research, you realize like it's completely not true. And like I said, I think it takes away from from the ones that actually hold some weight to them and actually matter. Like there's ones that actually matter. And now it's like,
Conspiracies.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
conspiracies. And now we have people like I said, like Brigitte Macron, the first lady of France. Like, who cares if she
Yeah, I
was a
don't get
woman?
into that stuff.
Like, who gives a shit? Like, excuse my French,
Yeah.
but it's like, but you understand what I'm saying? Like, it takes
JFK,
away.
9/11, those are the ones that actually matter in my opinion.
Yeah,
And
yeah. But anyhow, well, that was a fun time talking a little bit, taking a little trip.
yeah, a
My
little
favorite, my favorite conversation was you talking about working at the marijuana store. That was great.
oh, yeah, yeah. Hey, listen, like I said, fun period in my life until things kind of got weird.
Dramatic.
Yeah, I drew it was a self-inflicted wound. It's always a self-inflicted wound with me. Like I always have to throw like this Molotov cocktail into situations and make things uncomfortable.
I'm
But
gonna like call you afterwards. I want like the full details on this. This is actually really
oh, I'd be
intriguing.
happy to tell you. I'd be happy to have that conversation.
All right. Well, actually, I got to watch Yellow Jackets tonight because it's again,
What's
you
that?
should watch it. It's a show about these uh soccer players in the 1990s, this high school soccer team that gets their plane crashes in a Canadian wilderness and they end up
Hmm.
like resorting to cannibalism. So,
Oh, that sounds like
yeah,
something
it's just
light and
it's
airy for
it's like the
to
only
unwind.
television show I watch. Like that and The Twilight
Uh,
Zone are like my two shows. But Christina Ricci's in it. Juliette Lewis
oh.
was in it. It's really good. Like I think you
Oh,
should
hey, you know
watch
what I'm
it.
excited for real quick?
Yeah.
There's I Know What You Did Last Summer with Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like there's a not a remake. I don't know what it is, a sequel, but it's Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. Are you a fan of the original movie?
I I am a fan and I'm also a fan of them. Like haven't they been married for like a long time, like 25 years or something?
I don't
Like
know. I'm not
Juliet
sure about that,
wait.
but the
Wait,
movie comes
Julia
out
Love
this
Hewitt.
July.
Wait. No, what's the he's Freddie Prinze Jr. is married to the blonde.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. She's
Sarah
not in
Michelle
this one.
Gellar.
She's
Oh,
not in
okay.
this one.
Okay.
But
Sorry. I'm confused a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit.
J
But
J Love and Freddie Prinze are back. I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's what it's called. They don't call it. I love that when like a remake or a sequel comes out and then they just call it the exact same thing. Like Halloween. I Know What You Did last. Well, in any case, I'm super excited for that this
these are the
July.
things that keep us going. We need bread and circus. They just need to give
Yes.
us a little bit more bread, a little bit more circus,
And
and
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I don't know if you saw the trailer.
I
New
did
trailer was
not see the
released. Tom's like
trailer.
hanging on to an airplane, like in real life, like
The last
that.
movie star,
Yeah, yeah, the last movie star. By
the
the way, he
last,
never
the
said. Do you
only.
know that he never said one word about the political climate at any point throughout
He's a
throughout
genius.
throughout all the
He's
chaos of the last 10 years from 2015 onward? There was one time he was asked about it and he got really upset and he said, "Listen, I'm here to talk about the movie." And like he got really mad. Never said one word about it. And you
he's
got to
a
respect that.
genius. I respect that so much because the older I get, as I said to you off the air earlier, like I cared more about politics when I was 16 and now at 34 I'm like this is mostly dumb. Like this mostly it's just a big waste of my time. It really like I should be I mean money we should be worried about, but like everything else it's like does it really matter? Does it
Has there been one
really
person in the entertainment industry who hasn't said at least something though? Like everybody has made like at
the
least one comment.
The only person I want to hear their comments are Mel Gibson. So everybody else can shut
Exactly.
up except for
Yeah.
Mel.
I'm in agreement there with you. But hey, that was fun. This was fun, right? This was a nice little
This was
conversation.
fun. Yeah, it was a nice little kickoff to the weekend. I'm glad we're on our streak, number two. So we will see you next week, Colin. I'll see you.
Yeah,
We'll
I just have to
be,
make sure I'm well fed and I'll be back.
yes, you
I'll be
did a good
back
job today. You did
yeah,
a great.
thank you. I appreciate that. I need
Everybody give a
some
round of applause for Colin
yeah, I
being
showed up and
himself.
I do need the encouragement. I need the
You
praise and the
do.
encouragement. So
Everybody listening, you need to comment and tell Colin what a gem he is, how hard he works, and why he needs to show up next week.
I would greatly appreciate that because I'm still upset about that girl ghosting me. who I went out on the 2 dates with. So if you could please, I still think about it every day. But
Colin
okay.
needs a little pick me up, so please comment, please. Please.
Alrighty. Thanks, Karen. See you next week.